Thank you for being here. We are bang on 11. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. So good to have you here. I hope that you can hear me. Please let me know that you can hear me. Welcome to your masterclass. Please let me know that you can hear me, you can see me. Once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for registering. Thank you for signing up. Thank you for trusting me. This is Choir Structure 101. My name is Abigail Crown, your facilitator for this session. I hope you're ready. I hope you have your writing materials ready. We are live on YouTube, so feel free to share the link to somebody. And we are going to get started. Okay, so first things first, I need to introduce myself. My name is Abigail Crown. I'm a vocal director. I've been vocal directing since 2018. I've directed several live recording concerts. I've vocal directed at church conferences, church events, church choirs, and studio recordings. I am also a praise and worship leader. I do itinerant music ministry. I lead praise and worship at several churches all over the UK. I'm a professional background vocalist. I have done background vocals on multiple studio projects, live events. I've done background vocals on stage for several local and international music artists. I am a vocal producer, a vocal arranger. I've produced several albums and records that are now released on all digital platforms. I have written and released over 15 original songs to date, and I also help singers to rearrange and improve their songs and harmonies. So people write a song and they send it to me, and I help them revamp and rearrange and vocal produce. And also, I am a choir coach and a choir trainer. I have started sharing my knowledge as a choir coach and sharing my experience very recently, actually, just since 2024, based on divine instruction. And I'll talk more about that very soon. Okay. So why are we doing this? Why am I choir coaching? Why did I start choir coaching? First of all, I love choirs. I love the sound of choirs. I've loved being in choirs. I've loved working with choirs. And like I said, if someone would have told me that I would be doing this some years ago, I'd argue. But by divine instruction, I feel led to help choirs and coach choirs. And with this divine instruction came boldness, came joy. I absolutely love what I'm doing today. Came content ideas. I wake up in the middle of the night just with so many ideas of things to do and things to say, one of which is why we're here today. With this divine instruction has also come clients and, opportunities. And then also, I have realized that not many people know the things that come natural to me. I was on an Instagram live a while ago, and the person was saying, "What is that thing that comes naturally to you? What do you do so easily that you think everybody else should know?" And you'd be surprised that they don't know. And so she was encouraging us. It was a content creation masterclass. She was encouraging us to share our knowledge. And so that's another reason why I'm doing choir coaching. And I have also gathered a lot of knowledge and experience over the years. And I want to share my knowledge and experience. A lot of people have so much inside of them and they hoard the information, but I am not doing that. I want to share the knowledge and the experience. And then also I see a need for further training for choirs and choir leaders. And I've also been privy to see many disagreements, within the choir. Who's doing this and why is she stepping on my toes, and whose job is it to do that, and things like that. Just people aren't clear about their roles within the choir, and so it causes disagreements. And also you would agree with me that choirs need to bring back that excellence. We need to bring back excellence into the choir. I've seen many choir members be frustrated, and so we need to bring back structure into the choir. Okay, so I want you to tell me about you. We have quite a number of people watching online, on YouTube, on Zoom. Tell me your name, where you're watching from, and tell me your musical experience. What's your background? What do you do? Are you a singer? Are you a pastor? Are you a choir leader? Tell me about you. I'll be waiting. I'll be reading the comments. So I've got my dad on YouTube watching from England, Reverend Akeem Adeyemi from Kent Foursquare Gospel Church, one of the best churches in the land. I am reading comments. Let's see. Where is everyone watching from? I hope. Oh, I'm not able to see the comments for some reason. But yeah, we've got a few people online. Thank you so much for joining. Wow, so many people on YouTube. Honestly, we've had hundreds of sign-ups. I'm absolutely blown away. And yeah, forgive me, I'm looking everywhere right now. I have so many so many things going on, but yeah. Okay. Right, I can see some comments. But because of time, I will keep the comments coming. And I also want to know why you signed up. So tell me in the chat, why did you sign up? So put a 1 in the chat if you signed up because you are curious, you want to learn about the structure of a standard choir. Put a 2 in the chat if you want to learn what a choir director does, what a music director does, what a worship pastor does, a vocal director. You're curious to know what those roles involve. And then put a 1 in the chat if you've been appointed as a choir director or music director, a worship pastor or vocal director. So yeah, put a 3 in the chat if you've been appointed as one of those positions, and then put a 4 in the chat if you want some clarity on the scope of your responsibilities. And then put a 5 in the chat if you're looking to establish ways of working, a new structure that's tailored to your team. And finally, put a 6 in the chat if you just want an overview of other roles available, so that you can transition. So maybe you're currently a vocal director and you want to become the choir director, for example. So let me know why you signed up. What made you sign up for this session? People are coming in and they're wondering what's going on here. We've just started. We started bang on 11. So we're keeping to time. Okay. Amazing. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. So many people have signed up because they want to know the structure of a choir. Okay. So 1, you want to know the structure of a standard choir, right? Amazing. Okay, let's get straight into it. So what are we going to cover in this session? We're going to cover the roles within a standard choir. We're going to look at an overview of the responsibilities of the worship pastor, of the choir director, of the music director, of the vocal director, and we're going to look at the characteristics that you should aim for as all of these leadership positions. Okay. So everything we are discussing here is the ideal situation, okay? So this structure that we're discussing is the ideal situation. No choir is perfect. So whatever we teach here, please feel free to tailor it to suit your current situation. Okay. Also, this is one out of many ways of doing things. Okay. There is no industry standard. No one is going to dictate to you how to run your choir or how to structure your choir. You can have other ideas. You can, learn from elsewhere. But feel free to incorporate other ideas with what you're going to learn here today. Find what works for your team. Okay. Also, I do not claim to know everything. I'm simply sharing my knowledge and experience, okay? But I can guarantee that if you take what I teach here and implement it, your team will become efficient. I can guarantee efficiency in your team if you use what we teach here today. So this is not an exhaustive list of the responsibilities. There may be other responsibilities that won't be mentioned here, but if you are unsure or if there are other responsibilities and you aren't sure who should do what, then that's where a choir coach would come in, and they will provide a tailored scope of work for your team members. Okay, this is an interactive session, so feel free to type your comments, type your questions in the chat. We will be looking at them throughout. So let's talk about the need to invest in the church choir. I know we have a variety of audiences. Everyone may not be a Christian. Okay, but let's talk about a church choir because that's my background, right? A choir is a key aspect of the worship service, right? The choir sets the tone for worship. Sometimes before the sermon is preached, the people's hearts are prepared through worship. The people, the choir is often the first voice that people will hear when the service starts. Okay. And so a well-trained choir will cultivate an atmosphere where the Holy Spirit can move freely. When you have new members or visitors, they take note of the choir's presentation, of the choir's professionalism, of the choir's unity. All of these things really matter. So there's a need to have a vibrant choir that will make the church visible and joyful, and attract new members as well who are gifted and who want to serve. Being in the choir is a big commitment, right? And there's a need for training and structure. So we really need to invest in the training of our church choirs. When you invest in the choir, you are investing in people. Okay. 1 second. So choirs are made up of individuals who are serving sacrificially. Okay. And as church leaders, when you invest in the coaching, the training, and the leadership development of your choir members, you're showing that you care for their growth, you care for their confidence and their spiritual development. Choir members are more likely to stay committed to the choir and to the church when they feel supported and developed. Okay. And also there is a need for the work to be spread out to avoid burnout. Many choirs are held together by a few committed people who are carrying too much on their shoulders. So the same person is leading worship and organizing rehearsals and picking the songs and managing conflict and sending the lyrics and overseeing the vocalist and the instrumentalist, and all of this is not sustainable. It can lead to frustration and inefficiency, and eventually people will step down. And even the people with the purest of hearts, and they want to serve, they will eventually feel overwhelmed if the support is lacking. So just as the church body has many parts, the choir must also function as a well-structured team with shared responsibilities. Delegating roles will create efficiency, accountability, and longevity. Ministry is a team assignment. It's not for one person to handle. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So let's get into it. Like we said, we're not going to beat about the bush. We are going straight into it. So what are the typical roles within a standard choir? So first of all, you have your worship pastor, you have your choir director, you have a music director, you have a vocal director, you have somebody in charge of prayer and spiritual activities, you have a welfare lead, you have a wardrobe coordinator, lead vocalist, background vocalist, your instrumentalist, and your sound engineer. Does that look like the current structure that you have in your team? Let me know. Amazing. Yes, so your worship pastor, your choir director, music director, vocal director, and the rest of them. Okay, so let's talk about the worship pastor. So the worship pastor is really responsible for pastoral care over the choir members, right? And the worship pastor is also a bridge between the pastoral team and the choir. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Okay, so the worship pastor provides spiritual oversights. So the worship pastor will be providing regular spiritual coaching, training, mentorship for the choir members. They will encourage growth and development of the team members spiritually. So they will organize things like, oh, there we go. They will organize choir retreats, fasting and prayer meetings, Bible study. They will lead prayer meetings, pre and post meeting. So if there's a rehearsal, for example, or even on Sunday morning, the worship pastor would pray with the team and things like that. So they have that spiritual oversight on the team. And then they also provide spiritual guidance and direction for the choir ministrations and set lists. The worship pastor, because he or she will sit in the pastoral team, they have all of the knowledge about the venue and how to get access. So your worship pastor will ensure that rehearsal space and equipment is provided and you have access to that as and when needed. And then the worship pastor would also be helping to structure the team. So they will appoint the choir director, they will appoint the worship pastor, and all the choir leadership members. They will appoint that, and they will ensure the smooth running of things. Okay, they will also invite a choir coach or any external resources to enhance performance whenever that's needed. A worship pastor is a bridge between the pastors and the choir. So if there's any spiritual direction from the top, they will translate that for the choir. So for example, if there's a theme for the month, the worship pastor would then contextualize that and tell the choir what that means for the choir, right? And they will share updates from the choir leadership with the choir or the choir director. So some worship pastors will just prefer to speak to the choir director rather than address the whole team. So they'll share general announcements, and they will also address non-compliance issues and misconduct in the team. So that's the worship pastor's role, to deal with any conflicts within the choir and things like that. So qualities of a good worship pastor is that a good worship pastor is spiritually mature. They're sensitive to the Holy Spirit. They are knowledgeable in theology and spiritual appropriateness of songs and lyrics. So if there's any song that we want to sing and we're not sure about the lyrics or whether this is right for our church, we can ask our worship pastor to clarify. They care deeply for the spiritual and personal well-being of people. And in terms of leadership skills, the worship pastor is good at communicating. They're approachable, they're available. They're not afraid to provide constructive feedback. They can give praise and compliments. They are a team builder. They know how to put a team together. Please note that for a worship pastor, musical skills are not essential. It would be nice, but your worship pastor doesn't need to know how to sing. They just need to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and, knowledgeable about the structure of the choir and what needs to be in place for the worship aspect of the church. I hope that's making sense so far. Please feel free to use the chat to interact. I will be reading comments at the end. So let's talk about your choir director. Oh, by the way, at the end of this, I will have a question for you. So it's important that you pay attention because I have a very important question to ask. Okay, so your choir director is responsible for team oversight, scheduling and planning, logistics, and administration. So let's talk about team oversight. Like we just said, if there's any music requirements or spiritual instructions or guidance, your choir director would receive that clarity from the worship pastor. We want to sing on Sunday, for example. How many minutes or how many sessions are we required to sing? That's the choir director's job to get that information for the choir. They will share these updates and announcements to the team. And then when it comes to songs that will be sang by the choir director is responsible to vet those songs, ensure that the style, the songs, the lyrics align with the overall vision and the pastoral leadership and direction. Okay. Your choir director is your first point of contact if you're going to be absent, if you're going to be late, so that you can communicate that well in advance. So your choir director will make sure that people are communicating well in advance. I usually suggest to use WhatsApp poll. So creating a WhatsApp poll for people to indicate when they're not going to be available. And then also if they're running late, put it in the group chat so that everyone else can have visibility as well. Your choir director is responsible for coordinating team members and external resources, ensuring their presence at relevant rehearsals, events, and services. So the choir director is taking ownership of all the people management, just making sure that everyone's at the right place at the right time. People are showing up, people know where they need to be. In terms of scheduling, your choir director will need to agree a suitable and regular rehearsal time and location for the team. They need to communicate that time, date, and venue to the team. They will facilitate and monitor conversations during rehearsals to ensure that the rehearsal schedule is being adhered to. So your choir director will facilitate and guide conversations, guide the room, make sure that everyone is adhering to the structure. Your choir director will draft the rota for the month based on availabilities that you would have communicated to them. And then they will share the rota with the team well in advance. Your choir director will draft a Sunday morning schedule and ensure that this schedule is being adhered to. Your choir director is responsible for scheduling quality sound check and ensuring that all relevant parties are present at sound check. Sound check is very important. We will talk about it as we go on in today's sessions. Your choir director needs to ensure that the media team have the lyrics, have the songs in good time for projection during the service. They will also work with the media team to promote choir activities on social media or within the team. So if we're having a special event or a special retreat or whatever in the choir director will need to send the flyer, send all the information so that it's passed through the right channels. And in terms of venue and setup, so once the worship pastor has provided us a location, a venue for setup, for rehearsal, your choir director will need to ensure that the rehearsal space and equipment they're available, they're set up as and when needed. So it kind of sounds like your choir director is like a servant leader. He's just there to make sure that we have everything we need. We have our rota, we have our schedules, we have, so It's a very important role. And then in terms of administration, your choir director should be doing one-to-ones with you. So if you're in a choir, you should be having annual one-to-ones with your choir director. Your choir director will set objectives for you, set development goals for you. They'll do end of year or mid-year reviews with you. Your choir director will facilitate auditions and recruitment of team members, finding the best talents. And then there's also a choir handbook that your choir director is responsible for producing. Okay, so the choir handbook needs to be kept up to date, and the choir director will present the choir handbook to the team members and ensure that everyone understands it, they know where to find it, and everyone's using it. So qualities of a good choir director. A good choir director is a forward thinker. They think ahead of the team. They're thinking of what you will need, and then they are always giving ample notice. They avoid last minute announcements and things like that. They make good use of time. They're excellent time managers. They're well informed. They know exactly what their duties are. And they're transparent with the team. They have great interpersonal relationship with the team. I always say that the choir director is the people's favorite, right? Everybody should love their choir director, because you need to be able to approach your choir director. So your choir director should be approachable, always willing to help, giving praises and compliments. A good choir director is mindful of how messages are communicated and received. I always say that when a choir director is giving instructions or announcements, try to explain why. So end your sentence with because. So, hey guys, we're no longer singing this song. And don't just leave it there. Explain, we're no longer singing the song because there's a different direction, or because it's, because of time or whatever. So a good choir director is mindful of how they sound, because they don't want to sound like dictatorship or, anything like that. A good choir director can empathize with the struggles of the team members and can advocate for the team members. So the choir director needs to have good relationship with other key leaders and other departments in the church, so that they can get things in place for the team. Okay, so your choir director needs to know people, and everybody likes the choir director. In an ideal situation, the choir director is a favorite person, because they know everyone and they can get things done, get things in place for the team. So let's move quickly to your music director. So your music director's key responsibility is musicians oversight. So I know we have a few musicians in the room, so this is for you. So your music director is coordinating the instrumentalists. So I'll say instrumentalists and musicians interchangeably, they mean the same thing, right? So your MD coordinates the instrumentalists, ensures their presence at every rehearsal and service, and if any instrumentalist will be absent, they will provide an alternative. So I've seen in certain cases where the drummer is absent, the MD will provide a loop, and they will bring speakers to make sure that the loop is, we can use the loop during rehearsal. So they're making arrangements to cover any absences. Your MD would provide musical direction to instrumentalists. They'll be the first point of contact for the instrumentalists outside rehearsal and during rehearsal and on stage, right? So the musicians will take instructions and guidance and direction from their MD. The MD would compose and select creative and unique musical arrangements, intros, interludes, transitions, routines, things like that. So they basically make sure that the music sounds good, right? So your MD would attend pre-service sound checks, and they will advocate for their instrumentalists and for the team on any sound requirements. They will ensure that instrumentalists have the key information displayed clearly for them. So if there are instructions, they'll maybe put it on a notepad or something and give it out to their instrumentalists. However, they want to make sure that the information is displayed clearly, they'll do that. And then your MD would also provide feedback to the instrumentalist after the performance. Okay, so let's talk about your vocal director. What is the vocal director's key responsibility? All right, the vocal director has vocalist oversight. Like we just said, the music director has oversight on the musicians. Now the vocal director has oversight on the vocalist. They're responsible for vocal techniques, harmony arrangements, rehearsals and performance preparation, and sound check. Okay, so pre-rehearsal, your vocal director, I'll say VD, your VD would preview your, so if you're leading a session, for example, whoever's leading the session, your VD would preview your plan, preview your set list. If they need to, they will rearrange the set list and add creative elements. Your VD would also arrange new creative set lists and transitions for special sessions. You know, we have those in churches, we have those Thanksgiving sessions where we need something solid, you know. So your VD would come up with something unique for those sessions, and they'll share those ideas with the MD. Your VD would provide full lyrics and harmony arrangements clearly defined. They'll provide vocal guides, so they'll do recordings. I'll share more about that in future sessions that we're going to have today if you've signed up. Your VD would have a rehearsal plan. So they will, if your choir director comes up with the rehearsal plan, great. If not, the vocal director can also do that. They'll come up with the rehearsal schedule and they will ensure that enough time has been allocated to cover all the sessions. They'll come up with their own plan for the rehearsal. So if there are a few songs that we need to cover, they'll decide which song should we cover first, how long should we spend on each song, and which parts of the song will need more time and attention. Okay, so all of those things are happening before the rehearsal, and then at the rehearsal and on the performance day, your vocal director will handle the vocal rehearsal from start to finish. They'll prepare vocalists for all the sessions. I always say that the rehearsal really is for the vocal director and the MD to get the best out of the team. So they'll provide vocal direction to singers, they'll teach parts, they'll advise on vocal techniques, on dynamics, on stage presence. They'll advise on mic technique. They will, if there aren't enough mics, because some churches share mics and things like that, so they'll ensure that the mics are allocated appropriately to the different harmonies. They will ensure successful delivery of vocal performance. They will ensure that rehearsal slots are properly and judiciously used to perfect the upcoming sessions. And then your vocal director is responsible for sound check and vocal warm-up. So they'll handle the sound check sessions. They'll advocate for vocalists on any sound requirements. They'll lead vocal warm-up sessions before any singing sessions. And also, like the MD would, they would also provide feedback to vocalists after the performance. So qualities of a good vocal director is that they think ahead for the team. They always give enough notice. They are excellent time managers. They are well informed on their duties and their role. They know exactly what they need to be doing. And again, they are mindful of how messages are communicated and received. Okay, so they make sure that they, as much as possible, they make sure that the messages are clear, they're not confusing, and people have the messages at the right time. They know how to interpret instructions for various audiences. So music can get technical, but a good vocal director will know how to make it easy to understand for a lay person. Your vocal director ideally is the most creative person in the team. So if you're looking to appoint a vocal director, choose the person that knows how to put a good set list together, a person that knows about harmonies, that knows how to teach, that knows how to bring fresh ideas. A good vocal director knows how to vocal arrange on the spot, under pressure, because most times what you rehearsed, sometimes you don't even get to rehearse that session. So maybe there's a spontaneous moment, but in the moment, a good vocal director can direct the band and come up with something really good on the spot and under pressure. A good vocal director can identify harmonies easily. They can teach songs. They're very good at teaching songs. They're very good at teaching parts. They pay attention to detail. They know how to score a song in and out. So I will share more about how to score a song. So I'll be teaching later on this evening and this afternoon on how to score a song. So, and then soft skills, a good vocal director is approachable, they're willing to help, they're good at giving praises and compliments, and they don't mind explaining why. So what I mean by this is in rehearsal time, because the time is so constrained, there isn't enough time to explain things. So your vocal director is giving you instructions. Okay, sing this, go up, go down, or come, sing that way. So there isn't enough time to explain because or why. But if there's ever a need to explain why, your vocal director isn't too proud or too stuck up to explain why, right? So a good vocal director isn't, they don't mind being questioned. Some people really don't like you questioning their instructions, but no, a good vocal director needs to be willing to explain why. They can work with any vocalist at any level, okay? And they know how to take charge of the room. They know how to take charge of rehearsal, make sure that people are singing what they need to be singing at the right time. So, right, so let's recap on the structure that we've talked about, right? So we've said that we have a worship pastor who sits above, and then under your worship pastor, you have your choir director who is overseeing the team, making sure that everyone knows what they're doing, everyone's, on schedule, on time, and things like that. And then you have your music director who's focusing on the musicians, and your vocal director who's focusing on the vocalists. Of course, we all work together as a team and there isn't that segregation, but there needs to be clearly defined roles. And we talked about it at the beginning. There needs to be an even split or a good enough split of the work. So yeah, your music director focuses on the instrumentalist, vocal director focuses on the vocalist, and then we've got your welfare lead, and then somebody that does the prayer and spiritual activities. And then we have a wardrobe coordinator and your sound engineer. Okay, so that is the typical structure of a standard choir. Okay, so it's time for my question. My question to you is, and I really want to get your answers. Okay, I really want to get your answers. Are you ready for my question, my quiz, my test? Are we ready? Okay, so my question is, can we do without a choir director? Can the team function without a choir director? We've talked about what a choir director does. Sometimes the choir director isn't even one of the singers, right? They don't even sing with the team. They just manage the people, right? But can we do without a choir director? I'm waiting to see your answers. There's a prize. Maybe that will help you. Maybe that will help to inspire you to interact. There's a prize, actually. I wasn't going to say that, but there is a prize. Can we do without a choir director? And if so, how would it run? Who would handle that responsibility? Got so many comments on YouTube. People watching from Nigeria, from England. So someone said, no, we cannot do without a choir director. So let me go back to what a choir director does. Maybe that will help. Where is it? So for the choir director, we said team oversight, scheduling and planning, logistics, and administration. So can we do without the choir director? Okay, somebody said we can do without the choir director. Okay. Few people have said no. Okay. Well, I'm giving people a chance to participate. Okay. Of course, all of these roles are very important, and that's why we've talked about them. There are so many roles that choirs have that aren't so important, but every single one that we've talked about is so important. But if we absolutely must, and really we shouldn't, we shouldn't. In fact, let me stop sharing so you can see my face. We shouldn't. But if we must, we can share out the responsibilities of a choir director. So your MD and your vocal director can actually run the choir. Okay, so many comments on YouTube. Sometimes we don't have the right people, and so we have to double up on the roles. Exactly. Yeah. So if there is a constraint, if we don't have enough resources, we may just have the MD do what the choir director should do, or the vocal director do what the choir director should do. So all of the rota, the vetting the songs and hearing from the leadership, all of those things, it can actually be delegated. It shouldn't be, because then it's taken away from the time that your vocal director should spend creating, amazing music and all of that. But yeah, so many people are saying no, that we can't do without. But yeah, for a good management and great results, choir director is needed as he plans and communicates with team members. Exactly. Your choir director is very needed. Many people just give that responsibility to one person, and that same person is the vocal director and the MD. It's not ideal. It will cause burnout. Okay, if we have other roles, yeah, exactly. So I said, if you have the other roles, like the music director and the vocal director, then we can cope. You see, this is the mindset. This is the mindset that if we have the MD, if we have the vocal director, we'll be okay. We don't need somebody to do rota and all those things. But no, I hope that from what I've shared today, you can see that there's a lot that the vocal director to do. So a lot of music teams don't even do one-to-ones. They don't do appraisals. They don't do goal settings. They're not setting development targets and things like that. Yeah, so somebody said it will depend on the size of the church. So somebody's saying yes, we can. So yeah. So Pastor Randolph, you're absolutely correct. Who else? Skato Taj, you are correct. Yes. But yeah, everybody else is saying that because of resource constraints, most choirs don't, which is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Okay. Thank you all for participating. So let's carry on with are there any questions, by the way? If you have any questions, please, if there's any responsibility that you'd like me to re-explain or just clarify a bit more, please let me know. Let's talk about a choir coach. Okay, this is a new one that many people don't know. So a choir coach is a specialist who will come and train, mentor, and equip your choir and its leaders. Okay, so choir coach is an expert on the structure of a choir and how a choir should function. A choir coach will train your choir leader on effective leadership, on rehearsal structure, on people management, and things like that. Your choir coach would suggest tools, technology, and processes that are tailored to your choir's needs, budget, and resources. So there's so many tools out there that a lot of people don't even know about. I've seen, there's one, I won't mention the name, but you can use it to do your recordings, and you can use it to get people's availability, and you can use it to see who's doing what, and your choir director can use it to structure the team and put the rota in, and and there's so many amazing tools out there that will really help your choir to be so efficient. But if you don't have a choir coach, you won't know. So choir coach will suggest the relevant tools and even AI, all of those things and relevant processes that will help your choir be more efficient. A choir coach will also help to clarify each person's role and each person's scope of responsibilities, ensuring that everyone knows what they're meant to be doing. Okay. A choir coach will support the choir's growth through workshops, masterclasses like we're doing today, and individual coaching. Okay. And your choir coach will ask questions and investigate the root cause of dilemmas, and they will offer solutions to resolve any issues that you have within your choir. Okay. So that's what a choir coach can do. A lot of people have one-off choir coaching. So they'll hire somebody for a short period of time just to come and put the structure in place and advise. Or some have one every Sunday or every week. A vocal director can be a good choir coach if they know what they're doing. So let's take questions. Let's take questions. It has been an intensive set of slides, but I hope you've got some value. And I'm so happy to see everyone here. Thank you for interacting. Thank you for joining. Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions about your choir? What's your choir going through? What issues are you having? Or which of these do you feel like you need? Do you have a vocal director in your team? Do you have a music director in your team? Do you have a choir coach? If you have a choir coach, I'd be very impressed. Questions, 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 questions. I can't see things on Zoom for some reason, but is there any questions on Zoom? Are there any questions on Zoom? Okay. So, this is just the beginning, right? There's so many other things that we didn't get to cover in terms of the responsibilities of the other members of the team, and how best to merge. So someone's just asked a question actually, in terms of in a small choir, in terms of numbers, so not many people, what are the key important positions that are needed? Okay, so I'll answer that. So I was just about to say that if we had more time, I would have really advised on how best to merge the responsibilities when there's a lack of resources, and how best to choose the person for the job. So let me quickly touch on that. In a small choir, so let's say you have a choir of 4 or 5, right? What are the key positions needed? Number one, you need a vocal director, right? And there are levels, right? There are levels. There are some vocal directors that are like, they're really excellent, but don't feel like because you're the person that's a vocal director in your team isn't like stadium level, or O2 arena choir level, they're not a vocal director. You can have a vocal director who's still coming up, but at least have somebody in charge of vocalists, have somebody in charge of the singers, have somebody who is a first point of contact for singers when we're in rehearsal and the singers are confused as to what they're meant to be singing. We need to have somebody who is at least very good with harmonies, or who can teach the song, or who, that person that always comes to rehearsal, they've learned the song, they've learned their parts. That person would be a good vocal director. So assign somebody for your vocal, for your singers. And then you want to have a choir director who can also be a your MD, right? So we're really squeezing it now. We're really squeezing it. We're coming out of the we're coming out of the ideal, right? So have a choir director, have a worship pastor, definitely have a worship pastor, and then have a vocal director. Which other one? Which other one can I squeeze in there? Yeah. So I would say those are the key ones. Have an MD, have a VD, have a worship pastor. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. Are these roles paid for? Are they supposed to be paid or done free? Good question. So a lot of churches these days run on volunteers. So if that's the structure that your church is using, please use your volunteers. You don't have to hire anybody externally if you really don't feel like you need to. If you want to work within the availability of your team, then please do so. But some churches want to really have a high standard. They want to aspire to perspire. Like we say, they really want to, you know, put themselves up there. They care about music, they care about the sound, and so they will decide that, okay, I think we need to hire professionals. So if that's what needs to be done, if that's what your church leadership have decided that they need to do, then yeah, they will be paid for. But I think most churches work with volunteers, and if you have volunteers who that they're not very committed, if one person isn't there, everything flops. Or, it's then in order to have a good service, a good worship service, it, you could be advised to hire people so that that they're going to be there. The service is going to be good. Every Sunday it's going to be consistent. So yeah, they can be paid for or they can be free. Just depends on your budget or what you feel, what you believe in, because that's also a thing. With limited time constraints and people's unavailability, how does a church do well to ensure that we get the choir together to a quality time of rehearsal and training? Any experiences to share? That's a very good point. Yeah, in the UK, people are busy. Everybody is busy. Everybody's working, so it's hard to get people together to have quality rehearsal time and training. Now, this is what I'll say. You either want to be in the choir or you don't. You either, and I'm sorry if I'm being harsh, but it's a commitment. If you want to be in the choir, there are responsibilities. There's an expectation that you have to rehearse. If you cannot attend rehearsal time, then maybe the choir isn't for you. Maybe there's another department that won't be so demanding. But and this is why it's important to have leaders who really understand the importance of music and worship, and that worship experience, that music experience. You have to be able to come to rehearsal. And if you have been in choirs where, because of availability, they rehearse twice a month, every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks, or once a month. So, but not rehearsing at all and doing online and Zoom rehearsals is unacceptable. It's just, it just shows that you don't really understand the weight of the assignment and how much of a privilege and how much of a task it is that you are leading worship and you are leading the people. So yeah, your church needs to insist that your choir has quality rehearsal time. So yeah, just put it in, have a choir director, have a worship pastor that will ensure that this happens. How can a vocal director balance the spiritual and artistic aspects of leading a church choir? Good question. And this is where we have people in the waiting room. This is where your worship pastor will help, right? When you have the work of the vocal director is to focus on the music, right? Focus on the music, of course, with the spiritual and all of that. But if you can allow your your worship pastor to coach the team and guide the team, and then your choir director vetting the songs, by the time it comes down to the vocal director who's arranging the harmonies and doing the arrangements and all of that, it's already gone through a really solid structure, and we already know that, yep, this is the direction that the Holy Spirit wants us to go, and this is exactly what we're this is so it's not on the vocal director to then coach the singers on how to be spiritual. Of course, yes, those that can come in just flowing out of the overflow of the vocal director, but it's important that we have a pastoral oversight on the songs, on the set list, on the sessions, who's leading, are they spiritually grounded? All of that needs to happen before it comes to your vocal director, so that your vocal director isn't spending rehearsal time teaching about the Holy Spirit and about God. And, your vocal director can really work on the vocals, because there's so much. I see so many choirs, they have that spiritual side, but the technique, the excellence is just not there. And so let's have a structure, let's have a good structure in place. Okay. You're welcome. You're welcome, Miss Joy. Okay, so we have 1 minute left. I will keep to time. I'm not going over the hour. So for more personalized, practical, interactive training workshops, whether in person or virtual, workshops that are that are tailored to your music team, please send an email to abigailcrownmusic@gmail.com. If you want vocal director services, choir director services, music director services, choir coaching services, either one-off or weekly sessions, if you want songwriting services, background vocalist services, whatever your church needs, feel free to send an email to abigailcrownmusic@gmail.com. Take a screenshot. You never know when you will need it. I'm available to help at any time. Okay. I hope I've got some questions in, let's see. How can I get a choir trainer? Email abigailcrownmusic@gmail.com. I will recommend some very good ones to you. I think choirs should strive to have the right structure still and not give the excuse of being a small choir. Absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. Everybody in your worship team or in your music team can have a job to do. You should use everybody. Use every hand. Give them some sort of, if you need to send them to me for some training, send them to me. If you need to hire a coach to train them, hire a coach. But everybody has something to bring to the table. You would be so surprised that people have things inside of them. They just need that coaching. I didn't have that coaching coming up, and that's why I'm here to share this knowledge, to help people in their music. Can we have access to the presentation document? So I will send a recording of this after. If you've signed up, you will receive an email to show you where to get the email from. Thank you for the teaching. You are very welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. I am so honored. Thank you for this first session. See you at the next. Oh my God. No pressure. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So proud of me. Thank you. Yeah, so looking forward to hearing all about how you structure your choir. Oh, I need feedback, please. I need feedback. So I will send a link to the chat and I'll put it on YouTube now. So please share some feedback with us on how the session has gone. Let me post that right now. So what I'll do is I will send it in the email. So those that have signed up, please please keep an eye on your email, and you will receive the link. So let me stop streaming and then get that for you. Thanks everyone for joining, and have an awesome rest of the day. Take care. Bye.